following podcast contains adult themes, sexual content, and adult language. But would you rather have it any other way?
Alright, so welcome to the Would We Rather podcast, where we tackle the hardest, most offensive, sometimes uncomfortable, would you rather questions ever imagined. Today's question is, would you rather have $10 million today or turn back the clock 10 years? I'm your host, Meng, and today on the band's panel I have some of my oldest friends. You can find her on MasterChef Korea. Diana Choi, thank you for joining us today.
Hola.
One of my oldest friends in the world, and probably knows me better than myself, Vivian Chu, thank you very much for coming today. And my friend with most likely the biggest penis that I've ever witnessed, Jung Sing Lee. How are you doing today?
Good.
Thank you for joining. Alright, so guys, $10 million today, or turn back the clock 10 years. What do you reckon?
I would say have $10 million now, only because I don't actually regret anything that I've done in my life, so I feel like there'll be no point in me to go back 10 years' time, because if I changed anything over the 10 years, I feel like my life now would be very different.
You don't think it would be a chance that it could be better? Or you feel like this is the best it can be?
Yeah, I don't want to be greedy, and I'm pretty happy with where my life is right now, so I'd rather just take the money.
Okay.
And
I'd also say the $10 million, because $10 million is quite a lot. But I guess my other thinking is, why would you want to go back in time 10 years? And I guess basically if you're going to go back in time, the whole point is to effect some kind of a change that you think will make a difference in your life.
Yeah, well, how about this? Like when you go back 10 years, you retain all the knowledge that you have from now. So when you turn back the clock, everything else is the same as you left it 10 years ago, except you're different. You are you from 10 years.
Okay,
I guess.
I get the concept of that, but I also feel like with that $10 million that you have in hand, you could effect change with that $10 million that you receive.
Okay, sure. So make a change today as opposed to making a change from...
in the present and in the future rather than making a change back in the past, which has unpredictable consequences.
Okay. All right, Vivian. Thank you. Jung.
Now hearing what you said about retaining all that knowledge, I would probably go back and like buy Apple shares or something, or and make more than 10 million. But I'm
pretty sure Apple shares were still really expensive 10 years ago, though.
They would, I don't know,
Might be cheaper than
buy like
well.
2 shares. But I also am on Dinah's side as well, that there's not really that much that I want to change. So I'm kind of on the fence right now. Is there...
Okay. Well, what about this? Would the amount of time be any different? So instead of $10 million and 10 years, what if it was $10 million and 20 years? About 20 years.
ooh, I think we'd still go for the 10 million.
So all the stuff that you've done up to the point of now, or to the point of now, you feel like there's no point in time that you would have thought, oh, I want to do something differently when I was younger, or I wish I could have maybe studied that subject better, or could have chased that potential partner somewhere down the line and made something happen. Nothing like that.
Unless it was like $1 million or a year ago, I may consider that.
Okay.
But probably nothing more than 5 years. I don't think is relevant for me.
Okay. Wow. So you just like written off like the past is just like that's happened. Look,
Good life.
Pretty much.
that's it.
No
I wouldn't say I had a good life. I think I would just say
Had a great life.
I don't want to risk not having what I have now if I change anything, like Back to the Future, like the movie. You have to be so careful of what you change because you don't know how it will affect the future.
Sure.
So I don't want to take that risk.
Okay, sure.
if that happened, you'd be like a 7-year-old that's like 27.
Yeah.
If you retained all your knowledge.
But yeah, imagine how great that would be though, right? Like imagine being like a little kid and being able to truly appreciate like being that young
Imagine being
again.
like 7 perving on people. Like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, and no one's gonna say shit. No one's gonna say shit, right? Because
That's not okay.
like that's for other people. It's just gonna like, oh, that's a little weird kid, and no one's gonna call you out for it. When you're older, when you're an adult, and you perv on someone, they're like, that's rude. Stop doing that. But when you're a kid, they're not gonna tell you to stop. You're just a kid.
But then if you go back in time 10 years and you remember your 27 mind in a 7-year-old body, isn't that what you're saying?
That's 20 years.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so 20
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
And then you then grow up 20 years later. So you remember everything from when you were 7 years old. I actually think people think it's better to think than it actually is, because I saw something on 60 Minutes of how a girl has remarkable memory.
Sure.
And she doesn't like it because there's certain things that you want to forget, which I think we take for granted with our short-term and long-term memory.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a longer-term memory that you can remember everything, then I don't think you actually realise how bad it is than it sounds.
Yeah, but I mean, in that sense, like when you're a kid, you have no control of that, right? But if you have the maturity or the understanding of an adult in a child's body, well, wouldn't you say that you have more control about what happens around
Do
you?
you want that control though?
Yeah.
It's kind of fun having no control sometimes.
I don't know. I feel like as a kid, you kind of take everything for granted. And you don't really notice things, and you don't appreciate things. And I feel like just having an extra, because if we thought about it as math time, right? Let's say we live 100 years. That's an extra 20 years of your life. Okay, that's an extra 20 years that you can spend with.
So this is one of the questions I have about your question, which is, are we reliving that whole 10 to 20 years, or are we just stopping off for
No, we're
half a
reliving.
year or something?
Reliving.
And then,
And
no,
by
I don't-
But you can
I
relive it
don't
as
feel
differently
that.
as you want.
I don't want to have to go back to school.
Yeah. And is this by yourself?
Yes, by yourself, of course.
It's a bit lonely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit lonely.
Is it though?
There'll be no other 7-year-old kids with a 27-year-old brain in the world.
Yeah, but you can just play like a 7-year-old and enjoy that, can't you?
I don't know though, but okay, say for example, we've been friends for however many years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I go back 20 years and I'm 7 years old. I don't know any of you guys. And what if I wanted to chat about something and it's you guys are 7 doing your own things, and it's just I don't know, the dynamics is different.
She'll have to wait 20 years
Yeah.
to have to be able to tell all these stories to her.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard.
But maybe we'll still remember you, and then you'll just be like a midget that hangs out with us.
Why would she be a
I
midget?
already am. a
Or she'll be
midget.
7 years old size.
I guess the other thing is, so this question might answer differently. I reckon people would answer this question differently if they were older than what we are now. So, for example, we're, 27, 28, okay? Going back 20 years, so we'd be 7 years old. If a guy was I don't know, 50, maybe 60 going back 20 years, that makes a very big difference. That's a very big key difference.
Okay.
In terms of, because if you mention things like going back after that girl you really wanted, or that dude you really wanted from before, you're not going to go back to being 10 years old or in high school.
Sure.
You want to be, I think it's about what age you are when you're turning back time makes a crucial difference as well.
Yeah, fair enough. I understand what you're saying. So, in terms of if this was the prime, why would you want to sacrifice your prime
Exactly.
of right now to go back and redo it again?
And if you're
which
talking
is fair
about
enough.
redoing your career, in all honesty, it's harder right now, but we still have that opportunity at this current age.
Sure.
Whereas for a person that's 50, 60, turning back your career is a lot harder. So maybe you would want to take that 10, 20 years back and wind it down a little.
And with what Viv was saying before about going back to school, I would not want to go back to school.
Yeah,
I don't
shit.
want to be studying again. Even if with a 27-year-old mind, I probably would not.
Would you?
I still would fail algebra.
I probably would not
Scream,
do
that's what I
any
want.
better than I actually did in school, so I'd rather just...
Yeah. Would you go back in time and then go back to a public school instead of an all-girls school?
No, because I feel like I would be different. I would probably be different if I went to a different school and had different friends. I feel like all of that, makes who you are. So no, I wouldn't change it.
So we're just all looking at Joe and looks like we're going to say something profound.
I don't know.
Wise guy.
No, I think I probably would take the 10 million still. Going back to being a 7-year-old is quite a big jump.
Sure.
And, in 20 years you won't be able to make 20 million, I reckon. Even if you're... Okay, oh yeah, I guess you still
You would,
retain...
because-
I
yeah.
guess you retain all your knowledge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. So like what you were saying when you would buy some Apple shares, if you went back predating Apple, you would be more, you'd have more than 20 million by the time.
But
you get
I'd
to
still
now.
I'd still want to be able to do adult things, and in a 7-year-old's body, that would kind of screw up your body. You have to wait 15 years before you're 18 to do anything.
Okay.
That's true. We can't have beer. It's like tasting beer, going back to being 7 years old, and then not being able to drink for
Get your mum to drive you around places and stuff.
Yeah, because obviously the people around you don't know that you have retained a 27-year-old yourself.
Sure.
So they're still going to treat you as if you're 7 years old. So that would be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, so are you allowed to tell people that you actually went back in time and retained all this information? Because the chances are people aren't going to believe in you.
Yeah, of course, yeah, people will
probably
think-
get
people think
admitted
you're
to
nuts,
some-
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, of course you can. I mean, that's your choice, right? But I mean, that's going to affect this new life of yours, because if people think you're crazy from a very young age,
So
it's going
that's
to change your life
tough to
entirely.
keep a secret like that all to yourself
Is it
for
though?
so long. I reckon it would be.
Fair enough.
And I feel like $10 million is a lot of money. Like, how much more do you
Yeah.
want to go back? Like, you want to go back 10 years and make more than $10
Yeah,
million.
but I think about the things that is priceless that you can't buy. You know, like when I think about it, I think under the 10 or 20 years that I can spend with my parents, you know, which is my younger parents, and really appreciate like what they were like when they're younger, and really appreciate the sacrifices they made, because you know when you're young you don't think about that kind of stuff, and really go back and I guess treat people better than you treated them, I guess. Because you know when you're a kid, the way that you interact with people, there's no real second thought. You know, if you do something bad, maybe you feel bad about it, maybe you don't. But there's not a lot of regret when you do something that fucks over someone when you're younger, anyway. Because you know that concept of that understanding really isn't there. Because you don't think about like, oh, maybe if I call them like a fatty today, like 20 years down the line, they may just be this person with like an eating disorder or something. You don't think about the repercussions of things that happen.
Yeah.
So like going back, for me, and my answer would be different to all the others, I would take the time, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is, I'd go back. Purely because I'd want to do things again, but do it to, I guess, the maximum potential. Because for me, like, yeah, $10 million is a lot of money. You can't argue with that, right? But money for me, I guess, is just money. Like, I can spend the money and enjoy it, but that stuff that you can do when you go back is like, you can't put a price on that. You know, like, what price can you go back to, like, experiencing? Sure, you experience the shit things as well, but all the good stuff in your childhood that you've forgotten, and if you relive it again, it's kind of like, fuck, it's different to remembering something, you know, like when you experience a Christmas for the first time, or the very first Christmas you remember, that's like a happy memory that you have, but it pales in comparison to like when you're actually living that experience, you know?
So won't your parents be like the same age they are now though, if you go back in time?
No, as in like, you turn back the clock, but only you would remember.
Oh, right.
Yeah, only you would remember.
Okay,
Yeah.
alright, okay.
Yes, only you have like.
I thought you turned into like a 7-year-old right now.
That would be
Oh, I thought you
creepy.
were talking about that midget thing.
Yeah, because I thought we all would be the same age, except like one of us is 7 years old.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. So no, you literally turn back the clock.
Oh, okay.
So the whole world now has spun back around 10 or 20 years, depending. And you're the only person with the memory of everything that's happened past this point in time.
Okay, I feel like to do that and retain all the knowledge that you have, you almost hold too much power in a sense as well.
And that's a bad thing?
And it can be a bad thing if you abuse it and you can't predict if during that time you're going to change and end up abusing that power as well. Because I think all people start off with, with goodness, I guess, in their heart generally, I like to believe. So people often start off good, but as time changes, as people experience certain events, people tend to change and sort of decisions that... So, for example, you're going back because you want to go back and perhaps you don't want to bully that fat kid and hope that that will, create a positive effect on them. But what if just for whatever reason you just go back in time and then end up abusing that power and doing something that turns out to have completely opposite consequences for that person?
That's kind of like dependent on your own personality, right? How corruptible you are.
Yeah, exactly. But so you'd have to be pretty sure of yourself too.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume that I would go back and I wouldn't fuck things up too much, because I mean, if you retain the knowledge that you have from now, then you would hope that. Well, you see, that's the thing. Like, you would hope that having that much power wouldn't change.
But you don't know
Wouldn't
that.
change the core of personality. Yeah, and that's that's a massive risk, right? Like somehow because you have all that knowledge of predicting, I guess in parentheses, what's going to happen, that you could abuse that power and attain heaps more power than you could ever imagine, and that could fuck with you.
I feel like it can be a huge mistake to feel that you have all the control in the world and think that you know exactly how something's going to go. I feel like sometimes that can be a person's downfall rather than what's going to bring them forward. Sometimes it's nice to sort of not know where something goes and then just see how things pan out in the end. And sometimes people learn more from that experience more so.
So there's nothing that you would have thought that you've had an experience and you've gone, wait, I could have done that differently or better, and then have an idea of how that would have turned out.
Yeah, but I guess in my opinion, from the way I do things, I feel like with everything you experience, obviously you learn something from it and you can use that information and carry it forward rather than backwards to create a change. Like, yeah, you bullied that kid and maybe they ended up having an eating disorder. And yeah, you might feel really bad about it. You can turn back time, but you can also go the other way. Go see them, build friendship with them, build bonds that way. Yes, it's the harder and the damage has been done, but it's still another way to affect change.
Sure.
That's still, it's about which change you feel is, I guess, more worth it, I guess.
And with
which
that
direction.
$10 million that you have, you could go to that person and help them pay off their...
Yeah, but would you though? But you wouldn't though, would you? You wouldn't really.
But then
what makes you think you'll go back in time and bother to do it all too?
Yeah.
Because you've got the opportunity, because you have the opportunity, and it's not so much like, I guess you have the opportunity right now as well, but back then you're forced into that opportunity, right? Because it predates the time of when you actually did the thing. So for example, if you have an incident where you pushed a kid down the slide, and you will never forget that because you regretted it. Now, you can go out of your way and mend things now, but it's been so long, if you've lost contact, you're not gonna. Honestly,
I do like the challenge though. I think that I like the fact that it's a challenge.
Yeah, but
it's challenging yourself that much more to do the greater good.
Yeah, except for the fact that if you receive $10 million, more than likely you're not going to use that money to right the wrongs of your past. Because everyone has said right now is that it's about improving things as they are now. So you're not going to go back and dwell on your past with $10 million. You're going to see how you're going to make your present and future life better, right? So who's going to care about that kid that you push down the stairs, or...
Well, I know you've been thinking about it, right?
Or that
so
teacher who you made fun of constantly until they had to drink themselves stupid, stuff like that. You're not going to take the opportunity with that kind of money.
But then you're saying scenarios here and there, but over 10 years or 20 years is a long time. Like, we're not talking, 1 to 5 years. 10 years is a very long time. So to keep yourself engaged over those 10 years when you're the only person that has gone back in time, I think will be really hard to do.
10 years sounds like a long time, but if we think about 10 years, I think 10 years would have only just got to uni, all of us.
Yeah, actually, because I've been in uni for 10 years.
Yeah.
It still feels such a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't know, I've been watching all the same movies again. I kind of want to watch a new movie.
When I think about that, 10 years actually doesn't sound like a lot of time.
Okay, but do you want to go back for uni again? So you go back 10 years, are you going to go back to uni? What are you going to do differently?
Not go to uni. I think that would be my biggest thing.
Yeah, and then?
I mean, no offense to anyone that actually thought that uni was useful, but uni was honestly a waste of time for me, I feel. I didn't really learn anything.
You wouldn't have met so many of the people that you know, though.
Ooh.
That is true.
You wouldn't
that
have
is
met
true.
Diana.
Yeah.
That is... No.
I guess that's not really big.
No.
She's not that great.
Because if you think about most of us here, excluding Diana, we went to the same high school, so we would retain that same relationship even post that, even if we went to... And we did go to different unis as well, so we never lost that relationship. So if you think of relationships as touch points, right? So if you guys had all met Diana and I hadn't, we would have met anyway. And that's the thing as well, right? When you have that much amount of money, especially for someone that's not used to having that much money, what would be your very first instinct to do with the money? Because I feel like for me, I would, very first instance, I do the stuff that I need to do. For example, I want to buy my parents a house in on a beach somewhere, another one in the mountains just in case.
Do the necessities.
Yeah, do the necessities. Take care of your family. But then after that, I feel like it's all up to you. It's just what you want to do with it, really, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I would just abuse the fuck out of that, because I don't see it as an impossibility to buy a helicopter, ride around in a helicopter, and just drop eggs on you guys, or
that'd be pretty fun.
I wouldn't do that. I would be responsible about it. And
but where's the fun in that?
Maybe because I'm in a different part of my life to you. I'm married and you're not married, so maybe I'm thinking of my future, my kids.
Yeah.
If I had $9 million left, I would put it towards.
But you're not going to give a kid $9 million.
No, but I mean, it would go partly towards.
Oh yeah,
my kids, my retirement.
But that's all part of taking care of the stuff first, right? Taking care of stuff. Let's say that takes $2 million to take care of stuff. What are you going to do with that other $8 million?
I think the other thing is, okay, let's just take a pessimistic view on things, and let's just say the world's going in a pretty weird, dark place at the moment. Okay. So let's say with that, $8 million I saved aside, if something really horrible happens, you can use that money to help with aid and stuff to other countries and things like that as well.
Okay, so
it's about, do you want to go back in time to change, I guess, I'm thinking about, what's that movie called? The one, Mutants. Okay, so in, Mutants, that movie?
Ninja Turtles?
No. Okay, I'm not thinking, the movie about the mutants, what's it called? The one with Wolverine. X-Men. Okay,
X-Men, yeah.
so in the X-Men movie, obviously they go back in time to affect change that way,
Sure,
right? Because obviously they realise that in the future things are really horrible, so they have to go back in time to create a better future.
Yep.
All right, so-
I'm following.
But from the way we've been talking about things at the moment, it hasn't been on that kind of a grand scale. But obviously if you're going back in time and you could, I don't know, prevent war or something like that, for example, like terrorist attacks and things like that, then yeah, okay, maybe. But in the future, if things go downhill, then you can use that money that you have saved up to help future generations, research, that kind of thing as well.
Okay.
It's going to be so hard to do that, like to go back in time and help prevent wars.
Yeah,
and
that's
prevent,
what I mean. I feel like with that $8 million I have set aside, because I'm going to spend $2 million on my own to do other fun things, like, yeah, that actually might go further, because as a 7-year-old person, there's only so far I can probably go.
Yeah, like if you go and tell them that there's going to be a stock market crash in 2009 or something,
Yeah.
or there's going to be a tsunami in Japan,
Are they going to listen?
they're going to be like, oh shit, this guy's a crazy motherfucker. And then they'll like dissect your brain or something. Like,
Yeah.
Like you won't even be able to really make that much of a change unless you yourself want to do something
Yeah, like
really
you-
great,
you-
like you have
yeah.
a big goal or something that you want to, you know, be a climate change expert or some shit like that. And I know, I think in the end you'll just end up just sitting at home watching TV or something, like catching up on other movies that you haven't watched or something like that.
Like, oh my god, I can watch reruns of Beavis and Butthead all over again.
Okay, so I feel like the feeling's quite strong because I think that the
Yeah.
age thing is a big part of it. So if it was 30 years from now, right, and what is that, like, well, around 60 or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Do you think your answer would be the same or change? If you got given the option to either go back,
I would still take the money, because I feel like at 60, you might not have. You might not
you wouldn't
have
want
a
to
great
relive your
salary.
youth? Yeah.
No, I
You wouldn't
would,
want to have your honeymoon again? All that kind of stuff?
but I'm going on my honeymoon now with the $10 million. It's like a
Ooh,
second
that's
honeymoon.
true.
And help my grandkids
Sure.
and help my friends that are less fortunate than me or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I don't want to be tampering with my past.
Okay.
Okay, look, there's two situations I can think of where a person might be more inclined to turn back time.
Mm-hmm.
And the two things I can think of is you're near death, so you're about to die.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, obviously, most people don't want to die, right? So you
Sure.
want to turn back time. Or you've done something that's brought you a lot of trauma, like you've actually done... Say, for example, you accidentally killed someone, okay? In that case, then, yeah, obviously, I think a lot of people might be more inclined to pick that. But it just so happens that we haven't been in that situation. But I do think those are very real scenarios where people would like to turn back time.
Yeah, something major that they regret.
Yeah. Whereas we're actually incredibly, incredibly lucky people where that hasn't occurred to
Yeah,
us.
that's true.
Okay, let's say you got two parents, okay? One person died in a tragic accident, you'd want to wind back time, alright?
Sure.
Your other parent has cancer. Like, really deadly cancer, but you guys don't have money to pay for the treatment that, for example, would surely at least buy them 5 years. So which option would you pick then? To go back in time to save the parent that just died in a tragic accident? Or pick the money to help the parent that could live through cancer?
I'd still pick time.
I would pick the one that has cancer. You're helping them to prevent them from dying.
Yeah.
Because what's happened in the past, unfortunately, I think it's meant to be in some, I don't know whether it's God or some other higher person. So I think if you can prevent anything from bad happening in the future, I would go for that.
Why are you looking at me?
No. that was just my contemplation phase. I'm thinking like,
Have I tripped you out that bad now?
no, because if you knew that, because I'm thinking, would I still pick? And I would, because if I knew that one was definitely avoidable and one wasn't avoidable, I'd go back in time so I knew that, okay, so if on this date, I make a note in my calendar and go, yeah, make sure Dad doesn't go driving or something, you know? And then
Okay. So
tell the other parent, oh, hey, look, you may not believe me, but 10 years from now, like, you may get cancer, so something bad may happen to you, but
Alright.
forewarning you, just trust me, enjoy every second that, you know,
And
of
if
the
they
next
don't
10
listen
years.
to you, then it's kind of like, well, I tried.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I feel like to have the opportunity not to take it, it's kind of selfish on my part to go, well, you know, it's fate. Like for me, I would feel it's selfish
Yeah.
because if someone was given that option and it could save me, or if I could have a forewarning for myself, I'd be like, fuck you, take the time. I don't want you to have 10 mil when I could have known that, you know, I could possibly live my life a bit differently or like not die because you just gone accepted that, yeah, I'm going to die anyway. You know what I mean? I would want the other person, if you had that option, to take the time. That's just the way that I see it. It's just that I feel like if you can give someone else that feeling of making up for lost time, then that's...
I feel like you
great.
have to be able to do a lot of research before that point you actually turn back in time.
Yeah, you'd have to make a note of every single important date. It sounds really...
Because I was going to say, so when we go back in time and retain all our memories, are we talking about like our own memories, or we're going back with like photographic...
No, yeah, our own memories.
Because like, I don't know, like, dude, your memory's pretty
my memory is so trapped.
So I actually think you're going to go and be like, Dad, don't get in the car, but you're going to get the wrong day.
Yeah, that's a very likely scenario. And that's the thing, like, of course, anything you have to take that's caveat, right?
Like, I'd be taking so much ginkgo and doing so many like memory training tests before I actually go back in time to make sure I don't screw that up.
Because I feel like if you had a photographic memory and that's you'd benefit the most from that, because you would know exactly everything that happened or whatever. You wouldn't, but for like a normal person that doesn't have the memory like myself, who has a subpar memory at best, like that's something that I know. Like I'm not gonna know what days and what number spend the lotto. I'm not going to know.
Yeah, let's
like,
be
all the
honest.
ways
You
to
go
get
back
super
and
rich,
try to gamble on all the same basketball games differently.
Yeah, and I would still fuck it up somehow. And somehow I'd still fuck it up.
That's what I mean. To have the opportunity to go back in time to make up for parts where you fucked up and still end up fucking up.
I still wouldn't regret it because I'd be able to relive it all again and just experience it again. Because like that's the sort of double-edged sword of having really shit memories. That like a lot of good things I can't remember, which is a bad side, but a good side is a lot of bad shit I don't remember as well. But to be able to relive all the stuff that I don't remember, that's awesome. Like that's priceless.
But then there's like so many experiences that you have to have the like child mindset or something that, for example, you just like cliche example, you didn't know Santa Claus is fake or whatever, and then then you're enjoying Christmas or something like that. But then if you go back in time, you can't have those amazing new discoveries when you're learning at school or when you're discovering something new or your friend shows you how to like skim a pebble or something like that.
Okay, yeah. You don't have that feeling of that
the innocence anymore.
Sure,
that's true.
Yeah, you do lose your innocence in going back. That is true, but I like to think of it as you lose the innocence, but you gain the possibility of a fresh new experience for certain things.
Is that the thing that you're actually wanting? Is that you're wanting to go back time so you can essentially have a break from all the responsibilities of working full time, and you just want to go back to your youth, back in uni days where you didn't study, you just
fucked around, yeah.
Pretty much. Is that what you're chasing, really?
Yes and no, I guess. Like I feel like it was just a lot of it was just lost. I mean, there was no foresight. There's no foresight on my part to think about
I feel like
how
you forgot about a lot of the things that you actually did.
Yeah, that too.
You've forgotten a lot.
Yeah, that too. But a lot of that is because like a lot of things that I did, I never really thought about how it would really affect my future, because I was a bit of a late bloom. I didn't really think about how things would affect my own future until a lot later on. So a lot of actions that were taken, a lot of stuff that were done was pretty much just like a YOLO, I'm 17 or 18, whatever it was, and now I've got to try everything.
Yeah.
And without really thinking about, oh shit,
Like that strawberry tattoo.
No, that's not a I would still go back and
I'm
do it
just
again.
kidding, I just have to mention that one.
So if you were to go back 10 years and you said you weren't going to uni, what would you do?
I'd do something else, to be honest. I feel like anything else that just wasn't tertiary education related, or maybe it would be like maybe I just try doing something that was actually interested in me, like doing law or being a tradie or doing something different.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought about it.
I guess it looked pretty
But
badass.
to never, because I'm not going to take, like, even if I was curious, I'm not going to take the time, because I have no time now to go, hey, fuck, I wonder what that's like, and then go and do an apprenticeship.
If you have $10 million, you can do anything, like any of those things, because you won't have to worry about money.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, that is true, but like the experience would be, imagine being this age, okay, and doing something, and then being able to do something and grow. Like, it's the process of growth, right? Like, right, so to be able to go, right, so everything you can experience as a 10-year-old, right? And the stuff that you've already experienced, cool. But what about all the other shit that you can do? And that you can experience as a 10-year-old? Like, you can't even imagine that, right?
You won't be able to share those experiences, though. You have to keep it all to yourself.
Yeah,
that is true.
That's the thing. I find it a very lonely experience. I think that's like an element of it for me. Like, I wouldn't want to have to live through all that. Like, it'd be nice, yes, but you're living with quite a lot on your own.
What if the possibility of, I mean, I don't personally believe in the one, right? I feel like anyone can be the one if you have enough there and you make an effort. But imagine the possibilities of the relationships you could build with people when you know more about yourself. Because when you grow up, you're like, it's about building identity, right? And most of who you are is about who you've met and the experiences you've had. But now imagine going back and then having experienced things, having made relationships, and knowing more about who you are. Now you have a choice. Now you can choose to either rebuild all those relationships with people that you have, or maybe build different relationships with people that are more sort of in line with who you see yourself as. Because of course, you know, over time when you build relationships with people, especially with like people that you've, I guess, grown up with, you're not going to very likely cut ties with that person because of all the experiences that you shared, right? But what if like you guys just don't really mesh, and now you go back in time and you know who you are, you're certain with your identity, so you could choose exactly like, you know,
but
this
then
is the kind of
I
person.
feel like you're missing out on what childhood is all about.
Discovery?
I don't know. I still feel like I just don't know what happened. I feel like things could just go so wrong, like the risk that's there.
The risk of what? You fucking something up?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, what's the possibility of you fucking up things more than all the fuckers that you've made already? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Like,
have you not seen like the butterfly effect or whatever it was? What happened there in the end? What happened in the end?
yeah, I mean, of course, the butterfly effect, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. But I feel like it's, unless you really, really tried, it's like super impossible to like fuck your life up more if you already have the knowledge of like cause and effect, right? Because most of like the cause and effect that has a negative effect in your own life is because like you've made a decision without knowing of what's going to happen. You've done it and then you fucked yourself up. Like for example, once I jumped off my roof because I wanted to know whether or not I could make it, okay? And whether or not I could land safely, do a roll, whatever.
Yeah.
Turns out, in that moment, I can't think clearly and I panic and I hurt my ankles. Now, if I went back in time... Yes, both.
What do you mean you have both your ankles?
As if I landed on my feet.
Yeah.
And I put too much pressure on my ankles when I landed and I hurt both my ankles. Right? No, they didn't snap. I didn't snap my ankles. But
Did you need a wheelchair?
no, but like it fucking hurt, you know? Like, and I wouldn't have done that again because I would know that, hey, like, I know that that's the direction.
I wouldn't mind you doing that again. That'd be pretty funny. Like, have you guys watched... I don't know if you guys have watched Black Mirror. Have you watched Black Mirror, John?
No.
But there's this one episode, I think you might know what I'm talking about, where people can actually wind back to see what happened.
Oh, right,
so everything
yeah.
records, and they can basically look back in detail at everything that happens. Obviously, in that show, you couldn't really change anything, but they could look back and, you know, gather evidence and things like that. Like, I think you sort of need that information to make sure you make the best decision that you possibly can if you're thinking along that.
The episode, I think it's called The Entire History of You. The thing is with that, like, I feel like that's kind of dangerous in the fact that to be able to replay memory is not quite the same as living it again.
Yeah. That's
because
true.
you can get sort of lost. Like if you could replay back a memory,
I guess you can't
I
control
feel
what
like,
happens in that situation.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, you could like sort of have that feeling again. Oh, I know what this felt like, but it's never quite the same as being able to experience it again and to really change the way that you experience it as well.
Yeah.
Like,
or if it's like either $10 million now, or you can see your life 10 years ahead, like a fortune teller of what your life is to come in 10 years.
wait, how long of a snippet do we have of the future?
Oh, that's a good point, actually.
Like, do you get to see?
Maybe like an hour.
What the fuck? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Watching TV for like an hour.
Yeah, so like 10...
Oh, shit.
Maybe an hour... No, I think hour per year is too long. Yeah, I think an hour.
Or you get like
An
your
hour's-
memories installed into your brain or whatever.
Oh,
Like in 10 years.
Sure.
Time.
Because imagine if you got 1 hour snippet and it's just you like taking a nap for like an hour. Like, what the fuck can you do with that? What are you gonna do with that?
No, you can see your life... You can see what your life is going to be like in 10 years' time.
Oh.
It's a 1 hour movie.
Yeah, sorry.
your life.
it's a
That's what
1
she's
hour
saying.
movie of your
Yeah.
life. Okay.
Is that attractive or not really?
I don't know. I wouldn't want to. You know, it's like getting the spoilers of a movie.
Yeah,
though.
self-fulfilling
Like,
prophecy.
you don't want to get the spoilers of a movie.
But then if something happens in the future, then maybe you could do something now to prevent it. Or at least try to prevent it.
This is kind of like the inverse of going back to the past, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's kind of like you know what happens now, so can you go back and change it? Versus knowing what happens in the future, so you can change it now.
Yeah. I think for me, that's more attractive.
That's interesting. Because it's just like what you said about you go back to your family member and tell them, hey, I could, like, warn them that they could have cancer if they keep, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that is actually, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's actually, you know, when you say that actually makes it sound very lucrative.
Because
I feel like
that's
I'm
going to
leaning towards
motivate
this.
you more.
Should we just start the whole question again?
Yeah. All the way back. Screw the money.
Okay, fine. Let's swap this around then.
Actually, I want to ask them something though. Like, even if you didn't have the 10 million, would you go back 10 years?
No.
No.
Yeah, so
Okay, so the money
I think it doesn't even make a
the,
difference.
The money was like not even a factor. If
Yeah, it never
Yeah.
was.
But-
I'm okay with not having money.
But I feel like that answer would change if you actually experience, like, because you can never quite know how you react to something till something really happens, you know. So, like for example, jumping off the roof of my house.
And hurting both your ankles.
Yeah.
Both
So
of them.
I feel like if something really traumatic experience happened and someone came up to you and gave you this option and go, hey, you know, you can have another 10, you can turn back the clock 10 years and have another 10 years to spend with, you know, a loved one or whatever. I feel like 99% people would take it. Like, the logical part of you go, no, you know, I accept maybe what's happened and move on, but I feel like most people would go, fuck all that, logic goes out the window, especially when it comes to a loved one, I'm going to take the 10 years again.
Yeah, but when you're reliving a totally different life anyway, so...
No,
Yeah.
but no. If you have the knowledge, you can choose to live it exactly how you wanted to before. You could choose to.
I think
you could
my
choose
mind's already, because of all the memories that are there, I can't live it exactly the same way.
But you wouldn't want to either, would you? Like, all the fights that you've had with that person, if you had a chance to, of course, you're not going to want to...
Fighting can be fun.
Yeah, it can be. Right? But, like, if you know you hurt their feelings, or, like, maybe you did something dickish, or, like, you know, if you had a chance to do it again, of course, you want to have those... You just want to have, like, another 10 years of happy memories this time, maybe.
You won't even be able to remember, like, what you did. You won't... In one day, you're going to change your life already in the first day that you go back.
Yeah, true.
So from that point, as soon as you turn back, it's going to be a totally different life.
Yeah, you can't guarantee.
So you can't guarantee that nothing traumatic will happen, like, the day after, like, the first day that you go back.
Okay.
Like, you could
sure.
screw up already in the
Sure.
first day. So I think that's... Yeah, it's not a
I mean,
good
yeah,
reason.
you could screw up, but I mean, could you screw up so badly that it would have a worse effect than everything that's happened already? Do you know what I mean?
I think it's
Like,
possible.
you'd have to go out of your... I feel like you'd have to really go out of your way to, like, fuck things up to that degree that it's worse than the previous timeline that you've already lived, right?
But our timeline's been pretty good already.
Yeah, but we've been pretty good.
Yeah, but I mean...
We're cautious people.
Yeah,
that's
but
why.
I mean, we're living this timeline, and we know how good or bad it is. But I mean, that's because that's our own perception of how good or bad that is. And things could always be better, things could always be worse. It doesn't mean it can't be better. This is something that I haven't thought about before, which was that if you have kids, right? So something like you have kids, and you pick the 10 mil, and you've invested wisely or used it wisely, and now you're well off. In installments. And now you're well off. Would you have a fear, do you think, that, like, your kids are going to grow up accustomed to a certain way of life?
Well, that's why, like what I was saying before, of, you know, my part of my necessities, I would put the money into, like, a college fund or a specific fund that the kids can't access until they're a certain age, or...
Yeah, but even when they're growing up, you know, like, if they really want something, if you know you can afford to give them the best life possible, would you just give it to them, or would you force yourself to limit it, so that they would understand what it's like?
When you talk about raising a child, you're not talking about providing them with material means. You're talking about building someone's character as well. So it's about the way you spend that money has to be very careful, because you have to think about what your child's going to develop into and how they're going to learn to treat other people around them.
But do you feel like you're going to, though? I mean, because I understand that concept, and I always feel like, yeah, if I was in a situation, I would.
I know parents that do that, so that's
Okay.
why I'm saying, like, to me, it's kind of like, because I've seen people be able to do that, I think.
So it gives you faith that,
there's
yeah,
a
that's
possibility.
possible. Okay,
And
sure.
I think it depends on your background, your roots makes a big difference. If you grew up in a family that was very rich all along, then you might not know about the other way of doing things, I guess.
Sure.
But if you grew up in a family where your parents, you know, started off in poverty and really had to work hard to build themselves up, and you respect that part of their character, and that is a part of your attributes that you would like to develop one day, then perhaps that might change your thinking a little bit. I don't know if I'm getting a bit too like
No,
fluffy and deep
because I was
about it.
actually thinking the opposite direction, which was like if you grew up in a not so well off background.
Oh, and then you splurge.
Yeah, and then you go kind of the opposite direction, right?
As well, yeah.
So like when you're in that situation, you go,
Yeah.
okay, so now I'm the provider.
And actually, there's been research studies done on that type of thing as well. So there was a research study done. Sorry, I read a lot of research.
Yeah,
So there was
that's
a
fine.
research study done on people who grew up from low, middle, and high socioeconomic backgrounds, and whether they were religious or not. So the study was to see how religious people do their spending compared to non-religious people. Okay, and
Okay.
how their concepts of their tie to money and wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found was that I think it was people that got really rich ended up, if they were religious, regardless of whether they were religious or not, if they got really rich, they'd still spend whatever same amount. But if they started from low socioeconomic standing and went to middle class, then the non-religious group would tend to splurge more.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So religion plays a factor in it.
Yeah, but
Well, I can explain like this. So growing up, there was a lot of shit that I wanted, right? But we didn't grow up like, very rich or anything. So I didn't get everything I wanted, but like all the big stuff, like, I feel like my parents did sacrifice so that I could get this big stuff that I wanted. And having known that, like when I started earning money on my own, I went in the direction
Yes.
of splurging, right? So
Yeah.
unhealthy, obsession with collecting shoes, gambling, all that kind of stuff, all the good shit in life, because it was kind of like a makeup. Now, when I think and I go, okay, well, when I have kids of my own, I know like the right thing to do is if I had like a fuck ton of money, would be that you want to teach them the value of money and to be humble. But as they're growing up, if they wanted something and it's not like a really big item or a necessity, would I really be that person to go, no, because I'm going to teach you the value,
really,
I'm going to say no to you.
Depends what the
I don't
item
think like if my kid was like, I want these pair of shorts because this is the kind of this is the style that everyone wears at school, and if I don't wear them, it's uncool. Like for example, when I was in high school, if you guys remember, I was always wearing the hell big shirts because your mum was like, you're gonna grow into them, and so if I know that, yeah, sure, that stuff like that will build character. So if I don't buy my kid those shorts, it's gonna help him build character, or him or her build character. But would I really want to put them through that? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
because
I know
having
what you
experienced
mean.
that, would I?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, because I think with parents, a lot of their decisions on their kids are based on their background. Like my dad wasn't his family wasn't as well off as my mum, so hence why myself and my siblings, we went to a private school because my dad didn't have a good education, that he wanted us to have a good education. So I can see where you're coming from, that you want to make up for what you did not, you don't want your children to have what you didn't have, so you want to make up for it. But I think there's different ways of making up for it than materialistic things.
Like, for example, I would take my kids traveling a whole lot more. I think that's something that's really good to let kids see different cultures and experience the world and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. So I think we'll wrap that one up. But so if it was really a choice of taking the time or taking the money, I feel like it's 3-on-1 here. The three of you would take the 10 mil and go with that.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless I'd done something like really terrible and like traumatic.
Sure. Or suffer something very traumatic.
Yeah.
Possibly. Okay. All right, cool. Thank you very much to everyone on the panel today. Next week we'll have a new question with a new panel. As always, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, as well as Instagram, and all the podcasts are now up on YouTube as well as this one. And you can check it out on the website, woodwardrather.com, and you can download from iTunes or wherever else you get your podcasts. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.